Hello everybody and welcome back to Robert's Reviews. Today we have another Leonardo DiCaprio movie. Also today when this comes out, it will be my birthday, so happy birthday to me. I will be 20 years old, which is scary. I hope future me has a good birthday. It should be a good day because this review is going to come out, and I'm really excited to talk about it because it's a movie that I've been looking forward to. It was like, I'm not like shockingly disappointed, but I'm a little disappointed about it. I'm excited to talk about it because it feels like a really good movie, even though I don't really necessarily think it is, I guess. It's hard to explain. Let's just jump right into Revolutionary Road. Revolutionary Road was released in 2008. It was written by Justin Haith, and it was directed by Sam Mendes. So this movie brings Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet back together. It is on HBO Max if you guys are interested in watching it. And essentially what happens is we see two lovers, they come together, they're in love, and then all of a sudden just they fall apart and hit each other. That's really the gist of the whole thing, besides the fact that the guy cheats a lot and the girl isn't very happy with the marriage, and there's a lot of lustiness going on around in other people's characters as well. It's an interesting movie because it feels like a novel. It feels like a book. When you start, you're like, okay, we're getting somewhere, and then all of a sudden and we learn things as we go. And it really is quite nice. In terms of the plot, right? We learn that, Leonardo DiCaprio's character Frank is really nice and April's really nice, and they come together, and then all of a sudden we kind of see that, Frank's kind of mean to her, and she's not giving him enough credit for bringing the money holder in the house. And the idea of the movie is they want to move to Paris, because Frank's always wanted to move to Paris, and April's like, you know what, let's do it, I'll get a job there, because they pay really well for secretaries, and then you can, be who you want to be. And so they're like, okay, but all of a sudden, she gets pregnant. And Frank's like, well, we can't get rid of it because that's just wrong. It's also illegal at the time. But she's like, but if we don't, we can't go to Paris. So there's this big, do we or do we not have an abortion? And even if they do, it's not necessarily safe. It's safe before 12 weeks, but then after 12 weeks, it's not safe. Spoiler alert. They do decide to get, she decides without his permission to get an abortion at the 13-week mark, and she accidentally kills herself. So it gets crazy. And of course the performances are quite extensively good. But I do want to mention that I really think the plot's really nice, because normally when we see a romance movie, right, it's it builds like Titanic, right? Whoa, happiness, love, and then of course, he dies, but whatever. This is the complete opposite. It's not Titanic at all. They start really happy and they go downhill into just this really uncomfortable opposite relationship. It feels really awkward to watch at points, in a good way. I think it does a really good job of helping the audience decide who's in the right. At points in the movie we're like, oh, we feel bad for Frank, because Frank is working his ass off and she's not appreciating him. Whereas, from April's perspective, Frank's really mean to her, and abusive almost. And it's just a whole balance of who do we like more? Which for me, it will always be Leonardo DiCaprio. I do like Leonardo DiCaprio. Although I love Kate Winslet too. So it was really hard for me to decide where I wanted to lie here in this movie. Sorry if there was a big change or whatever. I just took a little quick break from filming to purchase this Xbox from my friends, so I just purchased it and set it up so I can get the Avengers game. But let's just go ahead and talk about the acting now. I don't really know where I left off, but I'll talk about the acting and then we'll wrap it up at the end. First, Kate Winslet as April. So Kate Winslet's fantastic in this. She was really good in Titanic. I don't think she was as good as she was in Titanic in this one, but she was really, really good. She was able to show that she really cared for Frank without being, overwhelming. And then towards the end, when she kind of flips and she becomes not happy with Frank, of course, she's able to show that in like the coolest way. It's like a demented love, I think is how I would describe it. It's intense, the way that she's able to just like control her face in a way that like makes you wonder what she's actually going to do. And then of course she, accidentally kills herself, so that was kind of intense. But that's okay. I did really enjoy her in this movie, and I look forward to watching more from her. It is perhaps an option in the future to do a Kate Winslet series. I wouldn't be opposed. Leonardo DiCaprio as Frank. This is the reason why I watched the movie, and he was stellar in this. He had that weird thing where I could see like the younger version of him as well as his older version. At times, he could draw on his older experience and be like kind of rigid and hard and aggravating and kind of aggressive. But then at other times, he was able to be soft and likable, and in general was able to provide us with a sense of overwhelming sadness, particularly when he realizes that he's probably not going to go to Paris, but he doesn't want to kill the child, and like it's a cool thing that we get to see there. And then in the end, when April dies and he's like all upset, was just like so beautiful to watch. I really, really, really enjoyed watching him in this movie. I can't wait to watch more. I mean, next week is Shutter Island, and then Inception and J. Edgar, all movies I haven't seen yet, and I'm so excited to see more Leonardo DiCaprio. So make sure you guys are subscribing to watch more, because we are going through all of them. We're almost done. We have like 4 movies left. That's insane. David Harbour as Shep. So Shep is like a side character that is in love with April but doesn't really want to tell it, and he and April have a sexual affair in the middle of the movie while she's married to Frank, so it's like a big disaster. And what's cool is that Frank tells April when he had an affair, but April will not tell him about Shep, and it's interesting. Shep's a cool character because he's soft and he really cares for April in a way that Frank definitely doesn't. And I think David Harbour was a perfect choice for this part. He was very young at the time of this, and he was able to show off the softness while being like, I still love you, April. And it was an intense scene, and I really did enjoy him in this movie, and I'm sure I'll watch more in the future. I mean, Black Widow comes out in May, and I'll be watching that for sure. Kathy Bates as Mrs. Givings. She's the property seller, and she's pretty prominent in the film. She was in Titanic as well, but I didn't mention her in the review because she wasn't that important. Here, also, again, not particularly important, but not too bad either. I really enjoyed her in this movie. I think she gave a sense of motherliness to the show, to the movie that I don't think we saw earlier in the film. We see her earlier, and then in the end, she becomes a mother to Michael, and we learn about Michael, and Michael has a disability, and so we get to see how she kind of handles that in comparison to the very bad way that Leonardo DiCaprio's Frank handles it. So it's cool to see a balance there, and I like that they used Kathy Bates. I do like Kathy Bates a lot, and I'm sure I'll see her more in the future. She's in a lot of movies. And I did like her in this movie. Michael Shannon as John Givings. So accidentally, I've been watching a lot of movies with Michael Shannon, with Man of Steel and Freeheld and this movie, and I think there's another one recently that had him in it that just kind of surprised me. I'd like to maybe do a series on him as well, because I think he was really good in this movie too. He was able to portray a mental illness and still be a human and be knowledgeable about things. It was really cool to watch him in this. I really, really liked it. I hope I see him more in the future, because I really do think he's quite stellar and quite phenomenal in this movie. So to wrap up my thoughts on this movie, I think it was a really solid movie. I think the writing was really good. I think the plot was really good. There were a couple things I didn't really particularly care for. There was a few side plots that were like, why did we necessarily do that? I see why we did, but also just kind of led to this weird moment where, in the middle of the movie, where we didn't really know where it was going to go, and it felt unnatural in a way, which I'm sure might have been on purpose, but I didn't particularly enjoy the middle of the film. The beginning of the film was really good. The ending of the film was fantastic. The middle was a little muddy, but nothing too bad. But I'm gonna go ahead and give this movie an A. But to make sure you guys are subscribing, and it helps me out a lot. We're really getting somewhere in terms of subscribers. And we have a whole bunch of series going on. We have every Friday, whenever a movie comes out, I will watch it, and then I will do a review on it. So if you guys like new movies, and I will do reviews on all new movies that comes out on Fridays, or at least a couple of them. Like, I know this Friday I'm planning on watching a couple. So make sure you guys are subscribing to do that. And it'll be a huge help to me. We're really getting somewhere. Make sure you guys are sharing this with your friends if you guys are interested in that. Make sure you guys are watching the videos all the way through. It really helps me out a lot. Thank you to those who are watching still. Next week, for Leonardo DiCaprio, we're doing Shutter Island, which I'm particularly excited about because people have told me it's fantastic. I have never actually seen it. So it will be quite an experience, I think, for me. But other than that, this week we still have Inhuman Season 1 tomorrow, Cafe Society on Thursday, and Friday we have the last episode, I believe, of WandaVision, as well as Pay It Forward, and maybe Boss Level and Chaos Walking, if I can find access to those. My movie theater is unfortunately closed, but other than that, I think we should be able to get to that. But I think that's going to do it for me today. As always, keep watching movies and television, stay educated, and I'll see you guys in the next video.